We're nearly there, folks. The last thing we wanted to talk about was the Seeds for Nature. When we started thinking about this months and months ago, we thought it would be a good idea to go to government ministers and say, would you offer us one or two things that would be a long-term outcome from this conference, something you're not doing already, and something that would be a genuine legacy from our time here. And we extended that out to a number of government agencies, and then to semi-state companies and to private companies. And so we just wanted to quickly run through what we got from that. These are all already, I think, up on the conference website.
Not yet.
Not yet? They're going up at the conference.
When we've announced them.
Oh, they go live now. Thank you. And it's been an interesting process. The first thing I would say is it was interesting that we found that a lot of the semi-state companies were able to make decisions quickly, and maybe that reflects how they're set up and how there's a CEO who can say, just do it. The second thing is that as time went on, we got better and better engagement from government departments. The start of it was like scraping barnacles off a boat, to be honest. But as the months and weeks went on, things started to come in. So we thought we'd do a sort of an Oscar moment and just give you... And we started off, by the way, looking for 20 seeds, and I think we've gone past that. Oh, I have to press the green button. Thank you. Needed instruction. One thing I do want to say is that part of the thing with government departments is sometimes they're saying, well, there are reasons why we can't give you huge, interesting things right here, right now. And for example, the Department of Agriculture is involved in a huge CAP negotiation, which will take quite a few more months. So I fully get it. They can't promise things without seeing how CAP comes out. And also, in fairness, the department would point out that, for example, they're spending 70 million on the European Innovation, it's getting late, the European Innovation Programs, the EIPs. So 70 million going in that is a huge contribution. So one particular thing on the agriculture side they put in was co-finance with NPWS the development of resources for a proposal for a Farming for Nature project, which was developed by Burren BO. So on the forestry side, intensifying the promotion and implementation of the Native Woodland Conservation Scheme and commit to increasing the uptake 5-fold during the lifetime of the current National Forestry Programme. And on the marine side, this is an announcement that was made recently, but which really does count as a seed for nature one way or the other, having 100% of the Irish trawling fleet participating in the Clean Oceans Initiative to collect marine waste and debris at sea and bringing it ashore for appropriate disposal. Would you like to take over?
Okay, so DCAE, Department of Communications, Climate Action and the Environment, commits to working with NPWS on phase 2 of the Observe programme and to improve knowledge of protected species, especially in the marine, whales, dolphins and seabirds, and sensitive habitats across Ireland. The OPW, Office of Public Works, will commit to developing a national seed bank at the National Botanic Gardens. And the measures already underway to protect rarest plants will be expanded to cover all threatened plant species in the state identified by the recent red listing process. Secondly, the Office of Public Works will partner with the EPA on a big new research project, Slow Waters, which is a strategic assessment of natural water retention measures, and work with Trinity College on ecosystem services from Ireland's forests for flood protection.
The Department of Housing, Planning and Local Government will expand the Marine Protected Area Network, and they'll provide planning policy guidance to support the integrated planning for green infrastructure within statutory land use plans in line with the objectives of the National Planning Framework. The EPA, of course, are doing a huge amount of work and fund a great deal of research, for example, but they are going to fund, over the next 3-4 years, fund 10 biodiversity and natural capital projects, provide seed funding to 5 community-based wetland projects in 2019, include integrated land use pilot plan in the 2020 research call, and prepare an updated set of nature module education packs.
Department of Culture, Heritage and the Gaeltacht, this is you. This is what you've committed to. So double the fund for heritage and biodiversity officers to implement biodiversity actions, so to implement the plan. And including action to tackle invasive species, and this will be co-delivered with the City and County Managers Association. Work with Angada Síochána to progress the Memorandum of Understanding for combating wildlife crime. run a communications campaign to inspire and motivate Irish citizens to take action for nature.
And there's more.
There's more. Establish the Business and Biodiversity Platform alongside the Minister for Business, Heather Humphreys. 17, establish a climate action programme and provide funding for research to improve our understanding of the impacts of climate change on biodiversity, and also for assessing the potential for nature-based solutions for mitigation and adaptation to climate change, and joining forces with the EPA to support bids for transnational funding on these issues.
I should just say that Minister Madigan announced a number of these yesterday, but there are also more that were approved and agreed that just were held over till today.
Do you want to carry on?
So, yesterday we heard about the draft legislation introducing a biodiversity duty, which will place a requirement on public bodies to embed biodiversity in carrying out their functions, including to promote or restore nature. We will undertake a financial needs assessment for biodiversity to determine what we need to spend to achieve our national targets and work towards a resource mobilisation strategy for the Biodiversity Action Plan. And one thing that wasn't mentioned yesterday, which is a gap at the moment in what's available, to provide a small grant scheme to help specialist biodiversity recorders carry out field surveys on some of our most understudied species.
Number 21, see we've gone past 20 already, make a proposal to government on natural capital to raise awareness across government of the natural capital approach to valuing and accounting for the benefits of nature to people and the economy. 22, fund the work of the Biodiversity Forum in overseeing the delivery of the National Biodiversity Action Plan. And 23, continue to fund the National Biodiversity Data Centre and its citizen science projects.
Oh, I'm sorry. And I think we mentioned this earlier, the City and County Managers Association will provide appropriate matched funding, that is 15% or more, to the funding that we mentioned a few seconds ago, to the biodiversity and heritage officers to implement biodiversity actions, including alien species and so on. And the Community Foundation for Ireland will, and this is great, launch a €250,000 Environment and Nature Fund in 2019. CFI hopes to grow this further this year and in the coming years.
So Bord na Móna have pledged to rehabilitate 20,000 hectares of cutaway bog, to restore a further 1,000 hectares of raised bog, to fund greenhouse gas research on birch woodland habitats on rehabilitated cutaway bogs, to continue to deliver on the actions set out in their Biodiversity Action Plan, and by 2025 to develop the necessary plans for the rehabilitation of all Bord na Móna bogs. Bord na Móna will also explore the use of the UN SEA, the System of Environmental Economic Accounting, to develop natural capital approaches to rehabilitation outcomes. And finally, to continue to work with statutory bodies, including semi-states and e-NGOs, to ensure compliance and benefits are realised by a wide range of stakeholders.
Quilcha have just one action, but it's a damn good one, I think, to restore Hazelwood Forest, a 130-hectare woodland in an SAC on the banks of Lough Gill. This is an alluvial forest, it's a priority habitat, and it's a scarce habitat in Ireland. The work will take 2 to 3 years to complete at a cost of €500,000. Dublin Port Company will develop a natural capital policy for Dublin Port to provide a framework for the port to achieve sustainability, complementing the implementation of Master Plan 2040, as part of which €1 billion will be invested in port infrastructure in Dublin over the next 10 years.
Gas Networks Ireland have pledged to manage all infrastructure, asset base and office locations on the island of Ireland and in Scotland in line with biodiversity best practice by 2025. As part of their renewable gas strategy, they support the All-Ireland Pollinator Plan and the promotion of red clover by encouraging farmers to grow this as a feedstock crop. 37, they will strive for net positive impact on biodiversity on all works and to engaging with communities in which Gas Networks Ireland operates and seeking to enhance biodiversity in collaboration with communities.
The European Commission, when Humberto Delgado Rosa was here, he offered a seed to work in partnership with Ireland to optimise investments for biodiversity under EU funds for the next financing period and commit to a stakeholder workshop in Ireland to explore these opportunities next May. The Irish Forum for Natural Capital will continue to work with government, financial institutions and corporates to develop natural capital accounts and further integrate biodiversity into those. And the Heritage Council will expand the Heritage in Schools programme to a second level with a particular emphasis on biodiversity.
So rather than 20 seeds, we ended up with 40 seeds, which I think is a fantastic outcome. And Hannah, if you would now stop chatting and press go live, then all of these seeds will now be, they are already live. So these commitments are already online. So that's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Sorry, and if any more of you can bring any more seeds, do please do so. And if any more of you can come forward with ideas, as we've had on the Slido for the last 2 days, do please do so. So we come to just the last few words from our conference. Yesterday morning at about 9 o'clock, I asked you to come to join us for 2 days to celebrate nature in Ireland, to share our knowledge and enthusiasms, to ventilate the problems and applaud the successes, and to kindle the energy that nature needs right now. You have delivered beyond all our expectations. We've had your work and commitments endorsed passionately by the President in his inimitable and inspirational style. We had the great fortune to have the Executive Director of UNEP, only hours after her appointment, and the Head of Natural Capital in the EU Commission give us a deeply insightful analysis, set out the scale of the tasks ahead and some of the ways to approach them. We've had an enormous range of contributions from specialists. And at the start, we made clear to each other that we all bring with us expertise, our specialism, and knowledge. We've had commitments to nature from business and the key semi-state government departments and agencies, the charitable, NGO, and voluntary sectors. We've had an honest and I think at times painful discussion of the problems we have to tackle. So we've some job of work ahead. One of our first is to digest, to compile and publish the outcomes of this conference. Another is to get back to all the work that we've parked for the last few days and to take on the new elements that arise from the last 2 days. And we also need to consider when and where we might do this again. I'd like to thank some people now. First of all, I'd like to thank Christian. I'm just wondering, is Paul Laycock in the room? He is, yeah. Paul, you might come up, please, in a second. I'd like to thank Christian Feehan and the staff in Dublin Castle for providing us a fantastic venue. I'd like to thank, yes. I'd like to thank the catering team here for great food and drink, constantly replenished, it seemed. I'd like to thank Emer McNally. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank Emer McNally for her artwork and Holly Brennan for branding the conference and the fantastic displays outside. I want to thank the chairs, the rapporteurs, the Slido people, the comms people, the PA people, the front of house teams, to John Lawler, the photographer, who was constantly on the go, to Ion for the AV and the live streaming. Sorry, Ion. I want to thank Crossing the Line and Lifeblood Films for 2 fantastic films we had earlier. I want to thank the conference sponsors, the departments of DAFM, OPW, Decay, EPA, and Dún Laoghaire Rathdown Council. I want to thank all of my colleagues in NPWS who filled the gaps while we were working on this conference. I want to thank Jerry Clabby, Ferdia Marnell, Louise Williams, and Cian White for their media work around the conference today. I want to thank Heather Humphreys, who told us to have the conference, and for Josepha Madigan, our minister, for pushing on it with us and working with us on it. I mentioned Paul Laycock earlier. Paul has done all of the front of house work for the conference with the team of our staff, and Paul has been just fantastic. Nothing was a problem, everything was easy. So Paul, thank you very much. I want to thank Jane Stout, our co-organiser with the Irish Forum on Natural Capital, for inspiring us and helping us and working hard on this. Jane? Thank you, Jane. And an enormous thanks and congratulations to the conference organisers, a 2-woman tornado team, Hannah Hamilton and Deirdre Lynn. working with those two is like throwing mince into a Coke bottle. It just explodes with ideas and drive and force, and let's do this, and let's do this, and let's do this. It's been fantastic. So thank you very, very, very much. Final thoughts. I was wondering, had we celebrated nature enough? And this morning I was getting the train under a big fat full moon. There were pheasants crowing, there were blackbirds and hedge sparrows singing. And I just thought over the weekend I'll see about half a dozen buzzards around North County Dublin, and they weren't here in the 1980s, but thanks to the Wildlife Act and enforcement, they're now spread right across the country. The same goes with things like pine martens. We've had a big increase in predators, and that's a great thing for most of us. Some people aren't thrilled, but it's a great sign of there are good things as well as things to worry about. In the next few weeks, nearly 2,000 pairs of roseate terns will come back to Rockabill off North County Dublin. Thanks to the school children in Balbriggan who make them nest boxes, the huge work of Birdwatch Ireland, the foresight of Birdwatch Ireland to get that project going, the support of the Commissioners for Irish Lights, and funding from our department. Next month, I hope to get back to Glencar in County Kerry to meet the farmers and foresters and the LIFE project team working to protect the pearl mussel. And I want to see the Raised Bog Restoration Project in the Midlands. I'd love to get to the Bride to see what's going on in the farming there and other farming for nature projects. So we saw it in the film there, but let's be sure to celebrate all of the good stuff as well. Last evening, Micheál O'Cinnéide gave us 7, or I think actually 8 L's. I'm going to give you 3 B's. Be delighted, be a voice, and be open to optimism. And as the final tweet evaporates into cyberspace, and the last coat is taken from the conference cloakroom, we know there's a huge and ongoing task list for us all ahead. So I'll leave you with the words of one of Ireland's great television characters: go on, go on, go on. Thank you.